Well, Ron, first of all, I hope the week went okay for you.
Thank you.
Second, coming back to another situation. So I'm just curious, this one involves them using your player in a press release, and I am curious what your take on that was, what you thought of that.
Well, I just think, again, that was something that's being handled, by Jason. Jason came out and made a statement last night and talked about it. And again, just going forward, as far as we're concerned, it's interesting. I'm being sincere. I mean, we're trying to focus in on what's on the field. We can't control that portion of it. Again, what we control is the football aspect of it, what our players do, what our team does on the football field. And we're going to remain focused on that.
Is it a little bit more frustrating because it does involve a player where now, you had to talk about it in the meeting, then, the player will get asked about it. Does that make it a little bit more frustrating maybe?
Yeah, because it'll be talked about. That's the honest truth. I mean, again, to me, it's a moot point because, we control what we control on the football field. And that's what I told the players. Let's just focus in on what we do, what's important for what we do and how we handle things. And let's just stay focused with that. I know you guys are going to ask the question, and somebody's going to ask me, well, what do you think about the distractions? Well, don't ask the question then. Leave them alone. Shoot, you guys know how everybody feels, and everybody's putting it out there, so let's just focus on playing the game.
I guess to that end, what was your sense of the reaction from the players knowing that one of their teammates had been mentioned in the statement?
When I talk to the players understand. The players seem to be in a good place. I have an open door policy. If they want to come speak to me about it, I told them. I urged them to come talk to me. And to date, nobody has talked to me. I talked to Brian last night, talked to him again today. Brian's in a great spot. I mean, Brian didn't understand what the big fuss was.
And to ask a football question, Chase Young, how did he look today, and what's your sense of his status for this week going into the Monday game?
He looked good. We put him in pass rush situations to watch him and get a chance to go watch him on tape a little bit more. But he looked good. I just didn't focus on him. I was trying to focus on the whole unit as a whole. But I did notice him a couple of times. So it's good to see him moving around and moving as quick as he is. We'll see how he is tomorrow morning.
Is that what it will? You have to wait till tomorrow or the next day to determine about Monday?
It'll always be about the next day. They how much they work him, and then the next morning if he's sore or not, or if he feels something, will help dictate as to whether or not we'll activate him or not.
This is the last game Carson has to miss. Where is he at? Do you anticipate him returning next week?
We'll see. He's looking good. He's going through his rehabs, doing the things he's supposed to.
I may be a touch ahead of myself here, but would you return Carson to the lineup when he's ready?
You're most certainly ahead of yourself. I told you guys we'll play the game, and then I'll decide when it's time to.
Philly is not an easy place to play. The crowd is on a whole different level. How do you prepare your guys for that? You've been there multiple times. You've seen your guys play there multiple times, but especially for the younger guys. I mean, how do you prepare them for Monday night in Philly?
Really, you just tell them. I mean, it's just the way it's going to be. I mean, for a lot of these guys playing in the different conferences they did, the young guys in college, I said just take your rivalry game and ramp that up an octave or two, and that's pretty much what you're going to get in Philadelphia.
How do you handle it personally, deciding whether to say something because you're frustrated or keeping the focus on football?
No, that's pretty much it, because what I have to decide is whether or not this is going to get back to the players. If it's something I feel will get back to the players, then I've got to address it with the guys. And in this case, this is something I figure will get back to the players based on some of the reactions, and I do, I do wonder about some of the reactions, the perception, because it will get to the guys. So I just mention it real quickly to the guys, this is what's out there. And again, this doesn't affect how we play or what we do on the football field. So let's not be concerned with it. Let's focus on playing the game.
What do you mean by you worry about the perception?
The perception, the way it's portrayed. I mean, so let's just focus in on what we do. I mean, how much gets to the players depends on how it's reacted to.
Do you feel like you have a process now, or do you feel like things have, over time, the number of times you've dealt with this, do you feel like you guys are in a better place because of that?
I do. I think, our guys understand, again, there are certain elements that we can control, and that's what happens on the football field more so than anything else. So let's just try to stay focused on that more so than anything else, because, again, it's a lot of this is about the perception, and the hard part is if you allow things to go on and perception unchecked, quote unquote, becomes reality, and sometimes it's not.
Coach, recently Jalen Hurts mentioned Cam Newton, put him on his Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks, and he said that he's kind of a guy that he not necessarily directly modeled his game after, but took some things from. Do you see any similarities yourself watching Jalen and obviously having Coach Cam? And is there anything that you can draw similarities from that kind of helps when it comes to game playing against him?
I'm not going to talk the game planning, but I will say there are some things that I don't disagree with Jalen. I mean, I watch the way the young man plays, and Cam was a highlight reel unto himself, and a lot of times when you watch the way Jalen's playing, you can see a lot of those flashes, or at least I do. He will tell you, though, Cam's taller, but the young man is a heck of a football player, and he does really, truly remind me of the way Cam plays. He plays with a lot of passion, which Cam did too, so he is a very interesting young man to watch.
Were you consulted on either the original statement or Jason's second statement last night?
No, I was in transit coming back.
Coach, I missed this at the press conference afterwards, after the game, but I did see the patch that they had with your mom's initials on it, the game. Could you talk about the class of that? I mean, that was kind of a classy move. I know you were emotional that day. You've been going through a lot. I think John even asked, how are you doing all of this? I guess I have to ask again after what's been going on, how are you compartmentalizing and doing all of this?
It's funny because a lot of things my mom was going through, she didn't want me to know about, and I was the last one to know. That was her wishes, and that's kind of the way Mom was. Growing up in the military, being an Army officer's wife, there were a lot of things, a lot of responsibilities you had, and she understood that. And one of them was, quote unquote, protecting the troops. So to that point, the last thing she wanted was to, quote unquote, distract me from football. Which I wish she would have distracted me a little sooner. But getting the opportunity to visit with her the week before she passed was huge. It was tremendous, and I really appreciate the support I got from the team. I got from the Snyders as far as that was concerned, knowing that I was going to be gone for a couple of days. Getting the opportunity to be there the last couple of days was tremendous, more so for my father. And the outreach from the team, from people in the league that I know was, and from some of the fans here around this area that have, that have gotten to cheer for us. I thought the reaction was very nice, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate all those folks. As I said, I really do appreciate the support I've gotten from this organization, on down from the Snyders to Jason to Martin. Those guys have been terrific in terms of helping out with a lot of things, and then the coaches really stepping up.
Any efforts or any type of things that you would like to tell?
Well, one of the biggest things is we set a thing up with St. Jude's. We set a link up, and if anybody wants to donate to St. Jude's, which was one of my mom's favorite charities. In fact, her service was at St. Jude's Catholic Church in Marina, California. But if anybody wants to donate to St. Jude's Children's Hospital, Stephanie and I are going to match up to $100,000 in her honor. And it's something that Mom always felt that the worst thing in the world was cancer, but something even worse than that was childhood cancer. And that was one of the things that we talked about.
Hate to go back to football, but Terry McLaurin, a lot has been talked about him over the last few weeks, obviously. But what are some of the things like? He seems like a very smart receiver.
Yes.
Where do you see that showing up?
Well, you see a lot of it by the way he tries to understand the leverage of the routes that he's running, that knowing where the help is and then trying to get his release properly in the appropriate position, and then that gives him an opportunity to win. You see those things. I think also understanding, where a guy is in terms of coverage, in terms of zones, and how to find the seam or the hole in it to sit down in it. So there's a lot of those little details that you see just continue growing in his game and him getting better and better at it. I mean, he really has done a tremendous job.
You talk about people being quarterback friendly. and I know he's talked about that too. Like, what does that mean to you, and where do you see that showing up for him?
Well, that means when you run your route and you make your break, you present a target, you know, and by that I mean is like, hey, I can square my shoulders up and I can make myself look bigger for my guy as he throws the ball. You know, a lot of guys, they make a cut and they just kind of come in and they're not as open as they need to be. Terry has a tremendous catch radius, and because of that and understanding positioning and how to put himself in leverage spots, he makes himself a big target.
Take one more. Ron, with disregard to the injuries, we saw Jahan out there today, but we didn't see Cole Holcomb. What's your sense of for them for this week?
Well, Cole's going through obviously a lot of the rehab stuff that we have him doing. I know they had him running on the Alter G and in the pool, so we'll see how he feels tomorrow morning, and we'll go from there with Cole.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you guys.
There was a play, I think, last week where Taylor scrams a little bit from